life, your term show.
Okay, so you guys finally made it in. I think we've talked about this for a little bit. Actually, no, didn't Scott? Were you on here before? Years ago, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Scott, Christie, Lauren. I'm going to try this. Karatanevski.
That's it.
Got it. What is that? Is it? I was just looking at the ski. So is it Polish?
Macedonian.
Macedonian. Oh, I didn't know that they ended with their names like that as well. Interesting.
Neither did I.
Mine's Irish, in case you were wondering.
Yeah,
okay.
Yours is easier.
Okay.
Yours is easier. So give everyone, so just for context, just so everyone kind of has an idea of kind of who you guys are, you know what I mean? Just a kind of quick, 20-second overview so they kind of understand where we're going with this type of stuff.
Yeah, 20-second overview elevator pitch. We are a health and performance lab that focuses on objective, personalized, and proactive health solutions.
Okay. And you got into this how initially?
13 years ago, Scott and I started our chiropractic practice called Back in Action, and we have a location in Toronto and another one here in Oakville. Really, the joke is that Scott started buying up technology in our chiropractic practice.
Scott's a nerd.
Completely.
Tech nerd.
Completely. Yeah. And, it's funny because he's been a sports scientist for so long, 30 plus years.
In the sports science field in some fashion.
And in our practice, we focus a lot on concussion. So our practice in Oakville, Scott's there 3 out of the 7 days a week, and we focus a lot on concussion management. We do concussion management in Toronto as well. And our business partner at the time was like, hey, there's this really cool piece of tech that can really objectively look at brain health. Is this something that you'd be interested in for concussion? So I think within a 15-minute conversation, Scott's like, I have to have this piece of technology. And so I've never been one to turn around and say he can't have something that he wants, especially if it's going to benefit our patients. But then what ended up happening was one piece of technology turned into 2, and then it turned into 3. And I was sitting in my office one day in a mastermind group that I was in. And the person that was running the mastermind was the CEO of Comic-Con. And he's like, I love doing art, but no one's going to curate my art. So I'm just going to set up my own art gallery and curate my own art. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. I have all of this technology. And it is literally a sports science lab at our fingertips. And I have an issue with our healthcare system. And I said, I literally got up, I walked down the hall to Scott's room, and I'm like, we're starting a human performance lab. And I walked out. And he came to me 2 days later and he was like, I really didn't want to start another business in another lab. And I said, well, we've got something super special. And I think more and more people need this because more and more people are starting to understand that they need to be autonomous in their own health and wellness. And we can be the providers for that. So that's how it all,
cool.
3 years ago, that's how it all started.
I want to come back to the healthcare stuff in a second. But just so I'm clear, Scott, like a sports scientist, what is that?
So it's basically just looking at somebody, whatever sport they play, and breaking down every component of it, like sprints, jumps, looking at their cardiovascular fitness, looking at their power, their acceleration. And you spend like about 40 hours on a person. And so I did a lot with that with a company called the Sport Performance Institute. And we would just go in and test people. So we actually worked with the Leafs and the Marlies and the Olympic rowing team.
And you guys would use all the tech around it too, so you had actual data for whatever you were trying to work on. At that time,
we were doing like blood lactate testing.
Got it. And that's blood lactate testing is like how quickly you can process the lactic acid, so you can keep performing.
Yeah, it's tricky, right? So the idea becomes the harder you go, the more lactate that you're producing, and there's supposed to be little phases in there that give us information about your different thresholds of what fuel sources you're using for exercise. And then we want to see that improve over time. And we would just look at graphs to do that. And now we don't use blood lactate testing in our facility. We do a little bit newer technology called NEARS. We also do the metabolic cart, which you were a part of, where you put the mask on.
Yeah. And we'll get to my pain and suffering in a second. So Lauren, you said, you have an issue with the healthcare system. And so that kind of triggered some of this. Yeah. And is it just because a lot of this stuff is just so reactive? Like my frustration is that to get any we don't put any funds really towards preventative healthcare in any way, shape, or form. And even if you go speak to your doctor about it, they're just like, well, no, like you're okay. You don't need any of that. I'm like, well, no, I kind of like I feel like I should be getting my blood work done or whatever other tests. Like I should understand what's actually going on. Is that what? And I don't mean to lead you with to an answer.
That's the perfect lead, because that's exactly how ISHP started. I think 13 years in practice where you see people injure themselves and then coming in to see you, or, we treat our patients every half an hour. And so it offers up a lot of opportunity in terms of time to be able to sit and discuss not only their health, but the health of their family members and whatever may be going on in their day-to-day life. And I think time and time again, after 13 years, when you hear somebody say, oh, I wish I knew before my heart attack that I should have done these things. And I wish I knew before my mother got cancer that we could have gone this alternative route. Or, my mother-in-law suffered a heart attack, and it just pisses me off because she was told to write in this diary. And she was told to do all these stress tests, and she passed the stress test with flying colors, wrote in this diary. The doctors never looked at the diary once. And so if they looked at the diary and it said, oh, my chest feels like an elephant is sitting on it, maybe they would have addressed the issue much sooner. Mm-hmm. And then they would have been able to catch something well before the actual heart attack happened. The crazy part is they worry so much about her now after the heart attack. And so a lot of this was precipitated by the fact that we did want proactive and preventative solutions for these individuals, because after a while, after 13 years, you just get so sick and tired of listening to it over and over again. Mm. You empathize, you sympathize, and then you get sick and tired. And I'm just one of those type of people that, I'm not going to sit on my hands when we know that we can do something at a completely different level for individuals. So really the premise behind it all was to take what these professional athletes get, to take what the 1% of our population can afford, and put it into a plan and program using technology to objectify how we look at somebody's health, and then give them the appropriate recommendations and solutions to be better for themselves, because they deserve to be better, and make it affordable.
So this is like just this growing area now, so in Europe, you're appealing to, like you said, health and longevity. So it's not like a sport, just a sports specific thing. And it feels like, and I don't know if it was, we mentioned Peter Attia earlier. Like, I don't know if it was his work, or, I know Huberman's got a big following, and there's a few different people that have kind of created these followings around understanding I don't even know what to say. Is it like your physical performance and how that leads to healthy aging? Maybe it's a better lifestyle as you age, or longevity. Is that kind of like where this is all derived from?
I think so, in a way. Yeah. This has been around forever, and it just so happens that I feel like we go in these waves where Peter Attia will come out all of a sudden and be like, oh, VO2 is the magic number, that's your magic longevity number. I feel like 30 years ago, Scott was doing this testing, but we never talked about it. And now it's come in this wave where we're starting to see breaks in our healthcare system. Mm-hmm. There's a break in the healthcare system in the US. There's a break in one in Canada. And they're jumping on these buzzwords to make it new and exciting for people. But it's been, I don't know, Scott, you've seen it. It's been around for years. Been around for decades.
It has been around, but I think a lot of the studies that they're quoting are from 2018, so it is fairly recent.
So there's more science behind it now.
Where they're actually looking at what your VO2 max is and what that means as far as lost life, right? And what can you do about it? So that's kind of what these guys are doing right now, is just showing you don't have to make big changes to see big effects on your health.
I don't get it. So like if I can run or cycle fast, how does that, like, other than like it means maybe I'm like a little bit more physically fit, and you would assume really that someone that's more physically fit versus someone that's completely out of shape has a better chance of maybe living longer. Isn't that the science? Isn't it as simple as that? Like, you're in better shape, so it's likely you're just gonna do better. But don't you know if you're in good shape or not? I'm obviously missing something. Like I'm simplifying it, I'm sure.
That's kind of one of the arguments is, why do I have to get tested? I think I feel pretty good. But if you take a look at why do you do blood work, you feel pretty good. You're doing blood work to check to see if there's something coming. So it's early detection. And I know we're talking about prevention, but there are very few things that actually fit in the prevention window that anybody can help you with. It's like physical exercise, right? That's called prevention. That'll take care of making sure you live a better life. A lot of the stuff we're doing is trying to catch things early enough that you can make a big difference about.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you have people coming to you now that are like, I mean, obviously there's people coming that are like athletes, or athletic, or not even athletes, but they're just, they like to work out and exercise, even if they're just runners or whatever. I don't mean professional athletes, and now you've seen a growth in people that are coming that are just kind of call them the everyday kind of person that just wants to see where they stand.
Yeah, I think that's exactly who we want to. This has always been the lab for the people. That's exactly who we've wanted to focus on, the everyday individual that wants to take ownership of their own health. Because I think for too long we've depended on, like you were saying, your medical practitioner, whoever that may be, your MD, your rheumatologist, whomever it is, and you take what they have as face value and what they have to say as face value, and then you just go with it. But there's so much more out there that people are starting to see, and they're starting to say, if I do the blood work, if I do the DNA testing, if I do some of these tests that we do within our lab, I can really get an edge on my health, and I can be a better person for myself. And they talk about health span. That's really what it is. We're living longer. Why not live better? Why still continue to be okay with the lackluster way of looking at our physical health? And so I think, again, through my irritation of all of this, and I'm super passionate about this, like if we can get everybody to understand that there's other ways other than what we've been so used to take a look at improving your health and wellness, and going in at it in a way that, being open-minded about it, looking at what your personalized data has to say, and then looking at those recommendations on health improvement, I think we can make great strides when we look at overall health, longevity, and wellness.
So then why is this VO2 max thing? Why is this such a, and for maybe just describe it for anyone that doesn't know what VO2 max is, just because there is a lot of talk about it now. It's like how there was a lot of talk about, cold plungers for a while. I think it's still out there. I'm still waiting for like the used cold plungers to show up on Facebook Marketplace for the people that bought them and never used them. It's like all the COVID equipment that came out in like 2022, 2023, you could go on Facebook Marketplace and just get like a steal of a deal. That's when I bought my Echo bike that I have at home. I was like, this is perfect. This guy's not using it anymore. I think he rode it like 3 times because it wasn't a big active person, but he bought an Echo bike. And I'm like, of all things to buy, like that's not, if you're not into working out, you're likely not going to ride that damn thing on a regular basis, right? Yeah. But sorry, anyways, on the VO2 max side, like what what's going on with this stuff?
Like to define VO2 max, it's like the size of your engine. So if you have a car with a big engine, that's your potential. That's what you're looking at. It doesn't mean you're using it efficiently, but it gives you an indication that you've been putting some work in to make your engine nice and big. And in this case, it's really how well do the heart, the lungs, and the muscles work together to consume oxygen. How well can you get rid of carbon dioxide and waste products?
And that's an indicator, and like we were talking about before, so because generally you're more physically fit, that's an indicator. And then if you think you're in decent shape, or you just want a baseline of where you are, then you have an understanding, and it gives you a goal to kind of shoot for. Yep. Because to increase that, you don't have to. I guess what I found interesting was when I did the test was that, like on the high end, what we were talking about earlier, on the high end my VO2 max was good, but on the lower end, because I don't train in that thing, and like you said, I guess it's common for some people. Yep. Because it's hard. It feels like you're not really pushing yourself. Mine wasn't the greatest. And I saw that right away. I was like, oh, damn, it's something I should probably improve on, because that just shows that I just have this larger low end cardio base, I guess, which is probably a healthy thing to have.
Yeah. So you're talking about, we're looking at when your fats and your carbohydrates are kind of switching. And so we want to look at that and see how close to your VO2 max can you get that.
And why do you want, so can you explain that a little bit further?
So it really depends on the sport you're in, but from a longevity standpoint, there's these little powerhouses in your body called mitochondria that are in each cell. And these guys are the ones that create your fuel to be able to do your activities of daily living or anything else that you want to do. And so the better your mitochondria are, generally the better you are at fat burning at all intensities. And so that's all we're looking for, is how long can you keep burning fat as you're increasing your intensity. And then that also ties into efficiency. So if you don't train in these low ends, you actually don't get any real adaptations. You have to train in different areas to get more efficient. So on everyday life, you're not revving your engine and driving as fast as you can. Usually you're just puttering about. And so to me, it's another longevity marker that people don't look at, is how efficient are you at using fuel at lower intensity activities. So I've got your VO2 max. Now I look at your efficiency at lower intensities, and it's not as good as what we see your VO2 max is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was interesting because to see just from taking that one test, you could see when I was burning fat versus when I started to burn more carbs, right? And would that apply then to someone's diet as well? Because if you have a carb fueled diet, yeah, okay, you're smiling, so that's right. So you would just naturally start burning carbs right away, which is probably then something to show that you want to change your diet then as well. Is that what happens? Like if I woke up, I don't know if it was just that morning, but if my diet was typically, full of breads and pastas and croissants and stuff, would I have started burning carbs right away from an earlier state?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And we're seeing that. So twofold. So I always come back to like the high performance people and try and use that to help the rest of us.
Sure.
So with high performing people, we've done a lot of testing where like they go into carbohydrate use almost immediately. And one of the last people that I was dealing with was a plant-based diet. And so when we were looking at his resting, what do you burn while you're at rest? He's predominantly burning carbohydrates. And then when he was exercising, he would go into burning carbohydrates really fast. That is considered like a health metric that we would prefer, that fat's an easier fuel. Carbs are easier to use and break down, but fats are kind of the preferred fuel because we have more of it, more availability of it. Even if you're ripped, you still have enough fat to sustain energy almost indefinitely. And so with this person, we actually have to manipulate his nutrition to make bigger changes to get him to burn fat more. And also, if you don't handle carbohydrates very well and he has to keep pumping gels in, you run into gastrointestinal problems.
I've understood that. I had a friend that rode, it was a guy that owns the gym that we go to. He rode an echo bike at a good pace. I forget what it was, for 12 hours. And that's what he had to do. So it was like an ultra marathon. He pumped himself with all these gels. And he's like, Nick, it was gross by the end. Like the destruction and for the training leading up to it. Yeah. He's like, on my gut, it just wasn't a good thing. Right.
But if he would have known that you can manipulate, maybe he did, but I would have been trying to manipulate his ability to burn fat at higher paces. And so that's doing the zone 2 training, right? Where that lower end training but just before the fats and carbs cross over, you teach the body how to use fat better, and then manipulating your nutrition.
So but I thought you wanted to burn like sugars and carbs were what your muscles wanted when you do exercises. Like I didn't realize, I guess my understanding was fat only gets burned when you're in, at a certain heart rate. And I don't know what zone it is. We call it between whatever 90 and 120 or whatever I thought it was, right? I didn't know that you burned any fat when you were at these lower heart rates at all. I didn't understand that.
Yeah, even at the higher intensities. So one of the case studies that we were looking at is this person was training in carb depleted state because they needed about 100 grams of carbohydrates because they were doing ultra endurance. They had GI problems and they didn't want to develop like diabetes and metabolic syndrome, which can still happen in these endurance athletes. He manipulated his nutrition, so he only needed about 15 to 20 grams every hour. And I don't know if it's going to improve your performance. For him, it did, but it's the health side of the thing that to me is more important.
So let's use me as an example. So my crossover was 120, like a heart rate of 120 or so in that range.
Yeah.
And is that like, what does that show? Is that good, bad, ugly? Like what is it, And you can be honest. I mean, you can rip me apart in front of everyone. It's fine.
So typically,
Oh, here we go. I shouldn't have said that to Scott. Of all people, I should have said that to Scott. Yeah.
You've given him carte
He starts
blanche
rubbing.
now.
He starts rubbing his hands. I'm like, oh no, where are you going?
typically, I'm still trying to factor all things in for you. You're strong, you're powerful, right? So that helps with independence. Your VO2 max is high, so for longevity, that's good. It's just your efficiency isn't as good as it could be, and you rely on carbohydrates more. We have a limited supply of carbohydrates, and if you need to keep replenishing your carbohydrates, that can run into other health complications.
So if I was doing longer duration, like cardiovascular activity,
Yes.
then I would require more carbohydrates than someone that was kind of more efficient on the burning fats.
Correct.
Hey everyone, before we dive back into the podcast, I've got a quick shout out about the Your Life, Your Terms report. This is Tom's weekly newsletter where he and Nick share real stories, experiences, and powerful insights to help you live life on your terms. Each week, Tom breaks down the economy, real estate, macro trends, and Bitcoin, and gives you actionable steps to make these insights work for you. No fluff, no vague predictions, just a clear path to thriving no matter what's going on in the world. Tens of thousands of Canadians are already getting the real information they need to level up their lives every week. I can honestly say it's the only newsletter that I've stayed subscribed to for years. It delivers real value that keeps me coming back for more. Join us and start getting the insights and tools to create the life you want, plus entertaining and inspiring stories from Tom and Nick along the way. Sign up for free at rockstarinnercircle.com/get started and start living life on your terms. That's rockstarinnercircle.com/get started. Your first step to living life on your terms.
And then how would, you said you can help people kind of change that. Like how would I, so the goal is to burn fat up to like a higher heart rate.
Yeah.
So then how would someone go about trying to change that type of thing?
We talked about this a little bit before, and it's confusing to people. It's volume, and you can't really do high volume at higher intensities. And if you're at higher intensities, you use more carbohydrates. And so you have to go at slower speeds. And what we do with our testing is try and tell you what those slower speeds, what speed you're supposed to go at, what heart rate you're supposed to go at, so that you're training your body to get better at burning fat. And then as you do that, it actually allows you to go faster. You'll start being able to burn more fat as you go faster. And now you have a new training zone.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like when you hear it explained like that, it almost doesn't even seem logical. But so you train at this certain zone, and because you get more efficient at that zone, then because of recruiting muscles and things like that, and then it allows you to burn fat in that zone. Versus when something gets a little bit extra hard for the body, then it switches over to carbs.
Right.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you train long enough at a certain zone, it's pretty easy for you, and then you can go forward. So,
Yeah, I was going to say also the other way that we can manipulate it is through nutrition. And so when we talk to a lot of our clients that come in, we will have them not only do that VO2 test, but we'll have them do what we call a resting metabolic test as well. And in that resting metabolic test, we get to take a look at how many calories you burn at rest, what your fuel preference is when you're just sitting in without any kind of activity. And it also allows us to determine with the utilization of body composition. So we had you on that Sika machine to take a look at your body composition and weight. We'll take a look at body composition as well to say, okay, this is what your lean muscle tissue looks like, because for health and longevity, it's important that we maintain and sustain lean muscle mass. We'll take a look at excess fat tissue. And then what we've been able to do is take a look at that raw data and come up with a plan of nutrition or a nutrition plan to say, these are the number of grams of protein that you need to eat, carbs you need to eat, fats you need to eat, to sustain what we want and what we think is best from a longevity perspective. And what Scott was saying is burning more fat, even at rest. And so we've been able to manipulate it both ways, where not only we're looking at the nutrition component, but then we're also looking at your heart rate training component. And it doesn't mean that anybody has to go out and run a marathon. Being at 120 beats a minute is just a brisk walk. And that's where you are most efficient in burning fat, which is then indirectly going to make you more efficient in your physical activity, so that you can start to move that scale. So I think the unique bit about it is for us, we don't actually take a look at the algorithms of any of the technology we use. We actually look at your graph to say, how much can you push yourself and how can we shift that scale over to the right a little bit more so that you become a healthier version of yourself.
I think that's probably a big misconception. I don't know, you guys tell me, because a lot of people, when they think about this stuff or even getting into shape, call it like, quote unquote, getting into shape, it's just like, oh man, okay, well, it's like hours in the gym and, and it's these big, like massive lifestyle changes. And it takes all this time where, sometimes it's as simple, depending on what your habits are, it's literally as simple as going for not a running or jogging. It's like you said, walk at maybe at just a little bit quick pace. Yep. And just doing that and focusing on doing that. And I noticed for myself, like one of the biggest things, because I'm in the office a lot, is any chance I get up to go walk around. So if I hop on a call, I'll get up and I just do paces around the training room, but it's just to move sometimes. Yep. Sometimes it's as little as that. I'm not talking about the training zones, but if you want to try and improve some of this stuff, you can do it at a relatively low heart rate, and it doesn't have to be like going all out and like passing out on the floor, like gasping for air, right?
No, it doesn't have to be hard. Any kind of activity above beyond what you're normally doing is going to allow you to increase your fitness a little bit. It's just to come back to the point, the more work you want to put into it, the more benefits you get out of it. I think that's something we do have to understand, because yes, people are going to say, I don't want to do a whole lot and I want to get better. The bottom line is the research is showing the more fit you are, the better your longevity. Mm-hmm.
So we talked about this, the VO2 max, and that's still kind of right now considered like one of the best markers. So where does strength come into this then? Like that still matters, but
when I try to, because that's kind of like Dr. Peter T and all that, they do talk about everything. Okay. And what I want to make sure people understand is the VO2 max is kind of going to give you an idea on your longevity. Your strength and your power gives you a better idea on your functional independence. So how long can you keep doing things on your own without assistance? And so we measure strength and power, and of the two, power tends to be the one that has the larger effect. And power is not necessarily how strong you are, but how fast you can move something. That tends to be a really good indicator and drops the soonest. So as we're aging, it drops 2 times faster than your strength.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Because that's recruiting different muscle fibers. Is that right?
You're trying to recruit the fast twitch muscle fibers. Yeah. So as we age, if you go into a gym environment and look at people that are more experienced in life, right?
That's a nice way of saying it, eh?
They tend to always do the repetitions at a specific pace. And yes, they're going to get a little bit stronger, but they're not developing their power. And I don't want people going out there and trying to rip the weights as fast as they can right off the bat. It's a learned technique that you have to do. But you need to be moving, for the most part, when you're working on trying to develop power. You don't need to do it 365 days a year. But for the most part, you should be trying to move whatever weight you have as fast as possible with good technique. And that will recruit your fast twitch muscle fibers, which are the ones that deplete the fastest.
Oh, I didn't know they depleted differently, because is it same for males and females when they start losing muscle mass as they age?
It's the same.
And how is it after 40s when it really starts to increase?
So we talked about this before. Like, I think in the last 2 months, I've seen 4 different articles come out and say that there's 2 different stages where you decline. There's 3 different stages where you decline. All of these things are based on if you're not actually doing anything.
Okay.
All right. So so at the age of 40 and the age of 60 and let's say the age of 75, you see these natural declines in your overall health and your performance if you're not training.
And if you're training, can you stay you can stay static, but they'll still drop off slowly.
You're going to drop off because there's something called senescence, which we all have, and senescence is the natural decline of your body through age.
Gotcha. It's
and
depressing. I don't like
it is,
that,
but you're trying to use, that's your ceiling, and you're trying to stick to whatever that slope is.
That's what I've basically found. I've basically come to terms with like I guess my for me for like PRs, like personal records, is just like I'm like, I guess those days are kind of over.
For you because you're into fitness, right? But for a lot of the people that are listening that don't do fitness, they can actually keep increasing for a long time.
Yeah. And I've seen some people, and it's awesome. I've seen some people that have come into the gym, and some of the members that we work with here that have come in and they haven't been in great shape, and they've made some pretty big changes just through consistency. And it's awesome to see.
Yes.
Like, it's just awesome. And I love it when I see people get like their first of anything. For a lot of people, it's a first, male and female. It's like a first pull-up is always like a big one for them, like a first strict pull-up.
Yeah.
And when you see someone get it, it's just, it's so cool. You know, it's nice to have those kind of goals to shoot for. So then the longevity angle is something that I guess more people are reaching out to you. So how is someone, like, I'm just kind of trying to get a sense of what like society's kind of going through. So people are now looking at their health, and they're just like, okay, I got to do something about it. So they reach out to you guys, and what are the conversations you guys are having with people when they first reach out, or how are they hearing about you? Because I'm trying to understand where we are with like the messaging and why people are looking at this type of stuff. And I'm just wondering if you guys have insight into that.
Yeah, I would probably, I probably field a lot of our calls and the questions that come into the lab. Yesterday I had a telephone conversation with a lovely woman who said, you know, as I'm aging and I've gone through a bone scan, I'm starting to realize that I have osteoporosis and osteopenia. And, you know, I really want to start to address my health in a more proactive way. We've had other people who are, you know, they're seeking to lose weight, and they've tried all sorts of methods, you know, fad diets, whatever it may be, to try to lose weight, and they're not losing it successfully.
So, and why are they reaching out to you? Like, what's triggering them to reach out to you? That's what I'm curious about.
I think because we're different.
So they found you guys online, I guess, or something?
They found us online. They found us through recommendations of other people.
The relationships that Lauren has created with medical doctors that want to see change, that's a big referral source.
So you're getting referrals from doctors?
We're starting to get referrals from the medical community as well, especially, interestingly enough, those that are working with a patient base and they're using things like Ozempic to help these individuals lose weight. They're starting to realize that the GLPs can only take them so far, but what they want us to be able to recognize is, what does their metabolism look like? What does their preference for fuel look like, so that we can give them that objective analysis and correlate it to the GLP?
So what's it look like? So like when I came to your place, which was fun for the record, and I thought there was going to be way more people interested in the office, and they weren't, because I think there was this intimidation factor. And I'll say from going after, and Amy did as well after she came back. She's like, no, like it wasn't, there's this intimidation factor to like a physical fitness testing. I think everyone thinks it's going to be like just extremely difficult or something. And it wasn't. It was just to give you a baseline of where things are.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly what it is. The way that I explain what we do in our lab is it's a health exam. It's not anything more than a health exam.
It's almost like a physical, but you're just moving at the same time. Right?
It's what a physical should be. A physical shouldn't be a questionnaire where you're sitting in your doctor's office and you have 5 minutes to say, okay, I haven't had a heart pain or chest pain, or I'm not tingly in my hands, and it, you know, when I pee, it doesn't hurt. Like, it shouldn't be these things. A physical exam should be physical, and it should be addressing, the way that we do it is that we address all systems. And I think with our background as chiropractors, and specifically ex-athletes who are chiropractors, we look at it as a whole systems approach. So we look at our longevity program involves brain health. It involves vision. It involves your metabolic health, and it involves your balance, your strength, and your power.
So I did the VO2 max, the strength stuff, some big arm that you pull, push, and you were laughing at the faces I made when I was doing it. I got into it, Scott. You weren't there. I
missed that part.
I was, when it comes to like trying to, you know, to be tight and just like flex all your muscles at one time, that's a skill that no one needs, that I have for some reason. Implemented a little bit of anger mixed with that, and it kind of worked out. And we did the balance stuff as well. And then but you said that there's brain, so you have other tech too. So there was brain. So was there any particular reason, or was it just to kind of give an idea of this? Like, why did you suggest that we do those specific ones for me?
I think at the time I think there was going to be more people, and we were trying to figure out how to go through what we want done. But to kind of go back to the beginning of the conversation, what are the two big predictors of longevity and functional independence?
Strength and VO2 max, right? Yeah, okay.
And so that's what Lauren, and then balance is I wanted to make sure you didn't win every test, so we wanted to try to do some other.
The balance, when you close your eyes, balance change. It's amazing. You know, I was cheering, but you forgot to start it because one time I balanced on my right foot with my eyes closed.
Yeah, Nick had a really good balance on his first go, and I was like, whoopsie.
Totally rigged it. But you know what? When we came back, and Amy and I were both talking about it with everyone, after we were explaining it to everyone what we did and how it was, they're just like, oh man, like, yeah, I want to go next time. I want to go, like, I want to go for sure next time. I'm like, oh, it's easy to say now, but I don't know why there was actually, to be fair, there was a couple injuries in the office because a few of us recently started playing softball. And that's like, no one's like, for older people that haven't played softball, that's like the worst sport in the world. You stand around for like an hour and then you sprint. Yeah. And I can't tell you how many hamstrings I've seen just blow in the last month playing softball. It is not a good thing at all.
Well, you were a world fastball pitcher, so you completely understand.
Yeah, stand around and then sprint.
Were you really?
Yeah. I was a pitcher, so I got to be more involved in the game. But
how's your shoulders?
It's fine because it's windmill, right? So
it's not like cranking it on.
And they got to use the natural physiology of the shoulder to.
Well, my dad has, like, he was a pitcher too, and his shoulder is done. But when I was going up, we were allowed to hop, and so then it's lower body. So before you have to keep 2 feet on the rubber, and then as you step off, the foot has to drag. But when I was coming up through, we could actually take a little hop off the mountain.
Oh, so you could get extra velocity with the lower body instead of just as much force.
So I've never really had any issues with the shoulder.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so and what about the brain stuff then? Like why? So because you said vision.
So we perform a cognitive health assessment.
Okay.
So we actually put a cap on somebody's head and it measures brainwave activity.
And you thought I was going to fail, so you didn't want to.
We didn't want to. We didn't. No, you know it.
We didn't have time to try and see if there's any activity.
Thanks.
So I think, like I said again, we address it like a whole systems approach. So brain. Because we do start to see cognitive decline. Cognitive decline can relate to falls. It can relate to other related things.
But that's not that you're getting stupid. That's like reaction time or something?
Yeah. So it's your ability to concentrate, your memory, your information processing. So there's a lot of research that shows in decline with cognitive health, there is an increased risk of falls. There is an increased risk of the bigger consequence, the dementias, the Alzheimer's, et cetera. So we wanted to make sure that was a facet in our longevity program, because if we can catch that early, then it's not to say that we can fix the issue, but at least we can address the issue early enough where we can start to find recommendations to other healthcare providers, professionals, inform the family of what may be going on, address it early. So we do that. We do vision so that we can take a look at, we actually have a virtual reality system that we put on somebody and we have their head move in space. So we want to take a look at how do your eyes function at the same time, the correlation with the neck. And so if we can address those issues proactively, then we can maybe have you functioning better. So depth perception can be better, because a lot of the elderly patients that Scott sees, they're afraid that they slow down their walking pace because they can't perceive depth as well as they used to perceive it. And so, that again increases fall risk. And the last thing that we want anybody to do as they're trying to promote good health is fall, which puts them in the hospital and then puts them in a long-term care facility or whatever. And I'm going to the extreme, but unfortunately it's sometimes the natural progression.
Yeah, but I think the falling is what is like one of a leading cause of this starts people down a downward spiral when they get older, because sometimes that leads to, like, if it's broken bones, it's surgeries and things. That's what I've read. Is that right?
Yeah. Our government spends $2 billion on falls every year. At least that was the stat that I looked at within the last year. Like, it's a lot of money that we spend on falls and fall care. And if we can address these things earlier, then the hope is that we can mitigate that risk later.
What's earlier? Like when, like in a perfect world, when does someone start looking at this? Because I'd imagine, the 19-year-old just really doesn't care, or even if they care, really, like, there's probably not I shouldn't say there's like no need, but there's just not as much of a need. So when does it become like, it becomes, hey, you know what, by this point, you should really probably want to start getting an understanding of your body in that way.
I think this comes back to a conversation we had earlier about that when you were doing that robot arm type machine, I was trying to compare your results to a 20 to 30 year old. So in my opinion, the testing should be done when you're 20 or 30 because I want to know that baseline. And then you don't have to do it like every year, but as you're younger, you might do it again when you're 30. But then the frequency has to start to pick up when you're getting into your 40s, where you've got to really, I call it accountability checks, right? Where your life's getting too busy, you're maybe not doing as much as you did when you're younger. We talked about senescence, and you're losing power. Those types of things are more important, I think, when you hit your 40s, that you need to probably start making that a yearly test.
Yeah, the irony is, to your point, we do more in our 20s to our 30s, and then we start to fall off when it's most important. So, you talk to an 80-year-old, they're not going to the gym and exercising, they're barely getting a walk in, but it's most critical granted, it's critical even before they hit 80. But it's most critical in those ages that we actually slow things down, that we should be picking things up and or at least maintaining them.
Those two research studies from 2018 talk about the most benefit for introducing fitness or getting stronger, more powerful, and getting your VO2 max up is at 70 and up.
Really? Is that for people that have never done it before?
Yeah.
Huh. So explain this to me. So you're comparing me, so 47, and you're going to compare me to the 20, in your opinion, you're like, we compare you to the 20 and 30 year old. So the idea is with that if you saw where I was as a baseline in my 20s, then you would want to see how close to that baseline I still am in my 40s.
Yeah. And it's a goal for you then.
But can't you just see that from the numbers? Like if whatever, my VO2 max was 50 in my 20s and it's 48 now, like in my 40s, isn't that, like, why do you have to you just see
so then I'm just comparing you to you, right?
Gotcha.
And then the other numbers.
Oh, so now you're comparing me to just because you don't have that baseline, you go and compare it to that. Okay, gotcha.
So I'm comparing to other people and what we see happens to them. So we know that one study is the people that were the lowest fitness levels compared to the elite people. It was like a 5-fold increase of death occurring within the next 8 years, right? So that's how we have to look at that to be able to tell people. But if I have your baseline, I'm going to kind of know where you are, and it's going to help you maintain your fitness, right? I can compare you to you at that point because obviously things are going to happen, knee problems, shoulder problems. Right?
And you're comparing where the numbers that you're comparing are where, like the group, where's the group coming from?
Anybody that's done that test. So
just with you guys, or anyone that's done that test on that machine?
Anybody that's done that test on that machine.
Okay.
So with you, that when I compared you to the 20 to 30 year olds, it was 4,300 people have done that particular assessment.
So was it, what did you, and that was like an assessment you chose, and it's not individual. I mean, it can be, I'm sure it's individual by exercise, but it's that group of exercises that I did. That's how many people did that.
Covering the whole body.
Got you.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. And then you take that and you just kind of, so you would look at that number. Well, use me as an example. So you would look at that number, you see that my number, my 20s, and that tells you what about me?
So one thing on one of the tests on here is going to be, we can take that data and see where you fit. And so on here, it talks about your power age of being 35, right? So you've been able to hold on to that 20, pretty close to that 20 to 30 year old body.
So the 35, that would be on the people that have taken this on this machine, the average 35 year old.
That's where you score.
That's where okay. So I've held on, so that it tells me that I'm holding on to muscle mass or something, I guess.
Yeah, in your case, it's going to be power and age, right? Because that is something I do. I know Lauren brought it up, but we look at muscle mass. And the problem is muscle mass isn't a really good predictor of functional independence.
Okay.
Your strength and your power is. Okay. So you can still maintain muscle mass, but lose strength and power.
Okay, so this is gauging this is both strength and power.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what did the balance? So the balance obviously helps you not fall.
Yeah.
So, and that tells you,
It's just another predictor of functional independence. And where are you scoring? Obviously, we don't have a baseline for people, but compared to other people, where are you scoring?
Okay.
And then there's these scores are used by people to say, okay, 20% of people have fallen when their scores fall within this value.
Okay, got it. And then something else and I did a grip test actually on one of those machines, because something I heard was just a hanging test. I think I don't know if that was Peter or T. I've heard talk about that or not. And if like, can you hang from a bar for a minute or 2 minutes or whatever the number is, and that's why so that's replicating that.
That's kind of it's just a different functional test for doing that, right? Because obviously not everybody's going to be able to hold their hands up over the head to do a hang, so there's a lot of data on grip strength.
Because that's the mobility. Yeah, okay. And what's the data on? I'll come back to the mobility in a second, but the data on grip strength.
So basically, to increase your functional independence and longevity, you should be able to have a score of 30 kilograms or more for males and 18 kilograms or more for females. And every 5 kilogram improvement improves your health outcomes.
Okay, and the idea there is if you do slip or you slip on the stairs or something, this is me, I don't know if this is true, so you can grab a railing and hold yourself up.
Faster reactions, be able to hold yourself. So the power and accelerations would allow you to make your changes quicker.
Okay.
So if you're saying you're going to slip, then you can catch yourself.
Got it.
As well as there's the correlation between grip strength and brain health. And so that's how we correlate it as well within our programs.
There's a correlation between grip strength? I have no idea, really.
Well, think of it this way. Your brain is what determines how many muscle fibers you can recruit. And so if you're having problems with recruiting muscle fibers, that gives you an indication that there's some kind of dysfunction going on.
But can it also say that you don't have as many muscle fibers?
That would just be straight local, right?
Okay.
So if you're cognitively sound and we're testing you, then we're actually looking at how many muscle fibers can you recruit to do that activity. But if you go reverse that, what's the thing that's allowing you to recruit the muscle fibers is the brain. So there's two things you have to factor in. Are you recruiting as many as you can, or do you just don't have them?
Wow.
Again, the proactivity around what we're doing is addressing these issues. So, maybe we don't pick something up in the cognitive health exam, but we're picking it up in the grip strength test. Then that, it triggers something for us, and it tells us a story that maybe we need to start looking into this a little bit more. And so every target that we have in terms of what we do tells a story about something so that we can address it early if we start to catch it, which is why, again, I look at it as a health exam. It's something that should be done on a yearly basis so that we can address things early and proactively look at how to end up taking a look at the recommendations that we have to do. And it's not to say that this is the only singular thing that we have to do. Then we get to start the discussion with the rest of the medical community to say, okay, medical doctor, I'm now going and I'm seeing these things. Now, where do we go? Do we have to do blood work? Do we have to do all of these other things to address it? At least we're not going into it blind. Or even worse, we're not going into it after the fact, which is what scares me the most. Typically, we go into it after.
Too late. Yeah, then it gets harder, right?
Yeah.
What about mobility? Because you talked about being able to put your hands over your head to hang properly. Mobility, so for myself, the reason I'm asking is something I really never focused on for years. Like when I was working out just at like a Gold's Gym, I would go and swing my arms around 2 circles, and then I'd do like max bench press right away, right? So not the smartest thing. And then I learned when I got into the CrossFit world, that's when I finally started learning about mobility. And as I got older, I noticed more and more that I had to put more of a focus on that. Does that come into play anywhere for this type of stuff?
So we don't directly look at mobility. It's just, can you do the exercises?
Okay.
And so that gives us an indication of what the flexibility of your body is like at that point, and then that would be discussed, right?
I'd imagine if you can't, like if you were testing the strength in a squat, for example, and if you couldn't squat like a full depth squat anyways, you're going to have less power because you can't drive the power anyway. So it kind of comes to the other.
Yeah. So
gotcha.
in the longevity test we didn't do it with you, but we do squat analysis. Right. And so the different kind of movements that you do, the Proteus machine where you had to go side to side,
I definitely sucked at the side to side one because I never do anything side.
I saw it.
Did you? Yeah. Yeah. Was that my weakest?
Yeah.
I believe that because it was, it's funny. I was just talking with someone about it the other day, like with all the different exercise and the different training I do almost nothing like side to side like that. And then I play like men's hockey throughout the winter once every Sunday for like an hour, and I skate. And always the first couple of weeks of playing hockey, because I haven't done anything side to side for a while, my groin, I guess, what is it, your adductors?
Yeah.
Right? They're always like sore because I haven't used the damn things. Yeah. So how about can you see my age score is that? What is it, 65 instead of 35?
I don't get it. Well, we do get it. Let me just pull up.
Oh, darn. I was hoping, I liked your first answer if I don't get it more. Yeah, this is going to be bad.
So you're in the 42nd percentile.
Yeah, that's not good.
But that's for do you want me to make it nicer? Because that's for 20 to 30 year olds. So if I bring you, we'll go 40 to 50.
Yeah, I want you to make it nicer.
There, I just thought I would do that for you.
I appreciate it.
You're in the 78th percentile.
Okay, that's not too bad. Yeah.
So once again, I don't like that comparison. And that's for power.
I like the fact that you don't like that comparison.
Yeah.
Because it makes more sense. Like, you could make yourself feel good about anything, but it's like, hey, you want to know how you're progressing to where you were.
Yeah.
Not like, this is kind of where you are, where people are now. It's like, if you want to go back to that, it gives you a better understanding of like how much, I like to know how much it's okay to have fallen off. Like, it's kind of part of life too. So it gives you a better understanding. But did I cut you off?
No. It's funny that you say that, because Scott had a patient in the office not too long ago she's in her 80s. And she's like, I'm doing better than all my 80-year-old friends. And Scott's like, that's not the point. The point is you should be doing as good as your 50-year-old children. And, you could tell the story better than I, but
some people probably don't like that though.
She didn't like that. So
very clear. Yeah.
She kept coming back to, like, I'm in the top tier of my people within my cohort. And I'm like, but if I go back and do what I did with you, go back to 20 or 30 or 50 year olds, you're not scoring above average at that point. Right.
Which is fair. I think
it is.
Yeah. I think there's I guess there's a good and bad to both ways to look at it. Like, it's good to know that, like, hey, for an 80-year-old, I'm not doing too bad. But, if everyone else is doing really bad,
what are you comparing yourself?
Yeah, that's the problem. That's what I learned, I think, with some of the blood tests that I got done. I guess, I don't know if this is accurate, and I don't know if you guys know, but like at Life Labs, they give you your score and then like the range of the average score. My understanding of the average score is just like, it doesn't mean if people are healthy, physically fit, anything. It's just the average of, here's a group of people, this was the range, do you fit in that? And I'm like, well, I'd like to know who they're comparing me to, because if it's, whatever the number is, and it's, they're comparing me to people that have smoked for 50 years or something, and they're looking for hardness in my arteries, well, then I hope my numbers, it shouldn't be in the middle of that. It should be top 1%. It shouldn't actually be even that range at all, Yeah.
And that's kind of the same idea with the VO2 max, with the power testing. I want to compare you to somebody that's younger, because you're typically not going to have as many of the chronic disease problems creeping in at that point.
Oh, got it.
And I
but
think
the VO2 max,
no, I was going to say the other thing, just because you said blood work, I think the thing that, again, because we get to spend so much time with our patients, we see this day in and day out, that if you fit in the range and it doesn't say high or low, no one looks at it. So if you're 0.1 off being high, which is physiologically not healthy, you're okay. And your medical doctor's not going to look at it, because they're just looking at a high and a low, because they don't have, unfortunately, I don't want to make it sound like I absolutely hate medical doctors.
No, it's the way the system's structured.
It's the way that our system works. I feel so bad for them, because they only have 7 to 12 minutes to spend on you coming in, and you have to address all of these things. And they're not going to sit there and go line item by line item. Fortunately for us, we can go line item by line item. And there's more times than not that I'm looking at this blood work, and I'll say to my patient, this is not normal. You may fit within the normal range, but being 0.2 off abnormal does not make you normal. And we have to address these things now. Otherwise, it is going to tip the scales to the point that it is going to be higher, it's going to be lower, whatever it may be. And so, it's just really, I think it's really important to address these matters, because the only thing that should be important is, when you are an 80-year-old woman, you should be able to get off of a toilet seat or a chair, or be able to step up on a curb and not run the risk of hurting yourself. And when I say hurting myself, falling. And, you know,
barring any disease or anything.
or exactly.
Sure. Yeah.
I just want to make sure we clarify so that people don't feel bad.
No, of course, that's fair. I mean, there's different things, there are different circumstances for sure. But as a normal, all things being equal, yeah. So then, so then in that situation, call it up. Let's go in the middle. We'll go down the middle. I figure everyone will live to 100 by the time we start getting there. So so let's call it a 50-year-old.
Yep.
So a 50-year-old wants to either improve their VO2 max or their power, if those are the two kind of number one things. What are, and I know it's going to range greatly. Like I get it because everyone's got their deficiencies and stuff like that. But if you had to kind of give a couple blanket statements, like in general, how do you do that for the VO2 max and how do you do that for the power specifically?
So obviously doing something is better than nothing. But if you're looking for ideals, you should be doing some kind of strength training 2 to 6 times a week.
But that's not for power. Is that just not?
Well, then it would be understanding how to develop. Like you're still going to get more powerful just doing something.
Okay, gotcha.
But just at a certain point, your body's going to be like, okay, I've got this speed down pat.
Got it.
Now it's like you need to start increasing the speed a little bit. And then the VO2 max, basically like 15 minutes a few times a week can increase your VO2 max a little bit. But really the ideal would be 150 to 300 minutes of some kind of aerobic activity a week. You're asking me what the ideals are.
Yeah. Could you break the 150 to 300 minutes? Can you break that
over the week?
But can you break it up into like per day? Like can I do multiple 10-minute segments or is it better to do one long segment?
It depends on what the goal is for you. We're trying to create efficiency in the lower aerobic system.
So you got to do longer for that?
You should. It's more beneficial to do longer. But there is research that's come out lately to show that you can bunch them up, spread them out, and it seems to have fairly similar effects.
What do you mean bunch them up or spread them out?
So you have your weekend warriors. So if I said 150 minutes, you could do 20-minute sessions throughout the week until you equal that. And you could just do the 150-minute session.
Oh, you got it.
One day, right? And you're still going to see pretty similar effects.
Oh, interesting. So. There's a lot more, like, is there way more study? Like, is it just coming up more frequent now? I feel like, maybe because I pay attention to it more, but I feel like the pace of science and studies that are coming out in this world right now is just, it's rapid.
I think what we'll have to be careful of, like if you're following social media, it's what are they referencing?
Oh, got it.
Yes, like there's a lot more.
Is it an old study that they're just referencing?
Or they're not referencing a study at all. They're referencing their opinion. Right. Or if they're using it, and you have to be careful with ChatGPT, sometimes they're referencing a study that actually doesn't exist, or they're just reading the abstract. So yes, there's a lot more people that are throwing more information out.
Yeah. So it's not changing that fast. It's just is it being applied to a new area? Like, is this whole I know you've been doing it for a long time, but it feels like is it like the whole boomer generation now, this whole longevity and aging well has become popular? Is that,
Yeah. I think it's more a popularity thing. It's the throwing out of these buzzwords, and then all of a sudden you have to have the information to back up these buzzwords. Mm-hmm. You know, when Peter Attia turns around and says, "Oh, we're going to talk about VO2," well, you better have all of the data and all of the research that comes around in talking about VO2. VO2's been around. We know it's been around. We just tested it differently. Yeah. And now, to Scott's point, to have social media, to have these outlets of where you could push it out so much quicker. A research article takes years to develop, but it doesn't take but 2 seconds to throw something into ChatGPT and then post it on social. So I think we're just starting to see more and more of it because people want to see more information. We're starting to see these buzzwords come out. I think, what was it? I ended up doing, it was fun. I used ChatGPT. I was like, what are the hottest topics when it comes to health and wellness in 2025?
That'd be great for that, yeah.
And it was everything that we do. It was like weight management, longevity and healthy aging, falls prevention. And it had this, like a list of 7 things. Brain health and mental health was another. It's just more and more people, I think, are looking for these solutions. There was something about the generation of kids now, like our kids, are going to be, they don't want to go to bars anymore. They're like it's like gym and coffee shops are their hangouts.
Which is
like, this
cool.
is
Like that's cool. If that's the option between, I was in smoky clubs.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the amount of smoke. Like looking back now, because there's no smoking in those places. When you guys were probably some too. When you went downtown Toronto to some of those clubs, do you remember the amount of smoke that was in those?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And they're now changing. Like Clark, our daughter, is going to be 6 in September. They were saying that her generation of kids is all going to be about health and fitness. They want the smartwatches, they want the Garmins, they want this data, because there is this switch now in mindset that it's not cool anymore to go to a club. It's cool to actually go to a gym and work on your physical health and fitness. So I think it's starting, they're starting to see these trends happen a little more. And I think, again, the baby boomer generation is starting to see their parents start to age too, and they don't want that for themselves. So they're trying to get better, and they're trying to, I don't want to say catch up, they're just trying to start at a different point. So we're starting to have this evolution of people who care a little bit more.
Do you think there's too much data? Like, do you see, like coming to you guys and getting a good understanding of things is one thing.
Yep.
But if you're looking, because now we can get data about everything at all times. I can get my sleep and my heart rate and what I do every day and, all my breathing patterns and all this stuff. And I can understand the benefit of it to some people, but is it just too much? Like, versus like, hey, I come, let's say as a checkup, come to see you guys every year. I do my thing. Here's what you guys here's Nick, you should focus on this stuff. If it's just in general, I'm not looking for something specific. You're like, hey, a little bit weak here. Maybe we focus on this, add these things. And then I come for another checkup. Like, isn't that almost better than where we are today?
So I think when you and I were going over your report review, something like that would kill people, right? As far as what do we want to call it?
Information overload,
right? But you wanted to know more and more stuff. But to kind of answer that question, we would really just look at your efficiency at lower intensities, look at your VO2 max, and look at your power output. So now you're not having analysis paralysis. You're just tracking that, and then you just kind of look for what are reasons why these things might not be where they are. So you don't have to go, like I said, the biggest predictors of longevity and functional independence are just those two areas. So
you just focus on that, and that's it.
Yeah, and I mean,
then you go down the paths if there's problems.
Yeah. It's funny because I apologize. I just did, because after we went through that, of course, we were laughing about it because, of course, it was right before Father's Day. I'm like, hey, so I went to my wife and like, hey, I got this great idea for Father's Day. If my kids want to get me something, it's this heart rate monitor right away because I want to start training. I lost my heart rate monitor, so I want to train in these zones. And because I'm a little bit crazy that way, and I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about? The
data and how far you want to deep dive into it.
Yeah. Anyways, I'll come back.
This is exactly what it's all. I think for us, to Scott's point, we can focus on two things, and we can get as heavy as we want into it from an information perspective, or we can get as light as we want. So we don't ever want anybody to feel overwhelmed. There is a massive amount of data. There's people talking about heart rate variability when they wake up and whether or not it's a good time to train or not train. They're talking about, what their heart rate levels are in this area, that area, whatever it may. They're talking about VO2. They're talking about all these other things. I think really at the core is what goals do you want to achieve for yourself personally? And then do you have the support team to be able to do that? And where we come in is we would be that support team for that person, where if they turned around and said, Lauren, all I want to do is lose 10 pounds. Well, we don't have to worry about everything with respect to the data. We can just fixate and focus on that until then you have a new goal. And then we can address as your support team that new goal. And it's just, I think as people, and you know this, Nick, everybody knows this, like once you start achieving the goals that you achieve, you want more goals to achieve.
Well, it's fun. Well, I don't know, maybe not for everyone. For me, it's just fun.
Yeah. And everybody looks at it differently. Like I know when I did our program and I lost 17 pounds on our program.
Awesome. Where'd you go?
Thank you. Yeah, it was good. I put some back on, but again, I know where to address it if I have to go back. And so, it made me feel good. And then it was like, okay, what's the next thing that I can do? And it may just be my personality to do that. And some people are okay. We've had people lose 50 pounds on our program. We've had them lose 70 pounds on our program. It gives them the opportunity to to feel good about themselves. And that's what it is for us. And if you have small goals, big goals, even bigger goals, we're there again as that support team to help it out.
Cool. I know we got to wrap up. I just, I'll circle back to what I was saying about the heart rate monitor when I got it. I did the test with the Polar, I guess, and it does like a VO2 max test. I didn't even know what it was doing. I just had to lie down for 5 minutes and it was doing some stuff. And it came back, and this was after I had done your test, and it came back saying that my VO2 max was like medium or something. And maybe it was talking about lower ranges because I had just done a far more comprehensive test with you. And I know that actually it was on the higher end, it was quite good. But that's where, it's almost like that's too much data because I don't know what that's, it's almost in that, and that's in a sense too much because it's not enough because I had much better data and now it's to give me this rounded thing that I don't even know what it is. And sometimes it's better if you can't get good data, it's almost better not to have it in some ways.
I think when you're looking at these pieces of tech, like the heart rate monitor, I think you have to come back to, it's trying to give you a VO2 max, but it's not actually measuring oxygen consumption.
That's why I was confused that that's what it was doing. I thought it was just
prediction.
measuring. Yeah, I thought it was measuring like my heart rate. It was like the weirdest thing. There's this. Sorry, did I cut you off?
No.
There was a couple other chiropractors know they gave me a website and it was like a VO2 max predictors, like a calculator online. And it's actually they've done it within their office where they did, a number of people did the test and they went on there and they got me to do it after. And it's amazing. It's within a few, like it's within the numbers.
There's a calculation you can do with treadmill speed and time. And
this was just like how much do you weigh? What's your waist circumference? How often do you go to the gym? What intensity level do you go to the gym? And it
was just a prediction.
Yeah,
algorithm.
it was totally some algorithm that was actually kind of like I was surprised. I was shocked.
So to me, like even the watches, some of them can be close. It's all individual. Like it's a lottery. But what you're not getting is the amount of fat you burn, your breathing frequency, how much air you're moving in and out, the carbohydrates you're burning.
God, that was great. Yeah. And then we did how much the power of like the lungs. And I learned stuff like you taught me about my thoracic mobility and how that could be a limiting factor because your lungs can't expand if you don't have the mobility. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. It just is how what's nice about it is it's how you can go as deep as you want to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Stay at high level. Just on the VO2 max thing, as you get older, as we talked about power, as you get older, does the VO2 max drop as well?
Yeah.
So unless you're actively working at it, that will just start falling off. And it falls off faster as you get older,
Correct.
similar to power?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And that's, I think, coming back to before we wrap up, because one of the big complaints I get is that people feel like they're not ready, that they have to be fit to do to do this test. These tests are really based on what your current fitness level is. So if you don't want to do a complete VO2 max test, you can just go as far as you want. And it gives us an indication. It gives you an indication of what the test is like. You go away and train and then maybe come back in 6 months to a year. And maybe now you can push yourself a little bit harder. But we can still give you a VO2 peak. It may not be your VO2 max, but give you an indication. And it's based on what you can do: bike, step, run, walk, up an incline. So just so people understand, you don't need to get ready to do this test. This test is to help you learn where you are right now and what you need to do.
It's a snapshot.
Yeah. Yeah. And I saw that here in the office. Some people were like, oh, I'm not sure. But it's just like, and then afterwards, when we were explaining about it, like what it was, they're like, oh, it sounds like fun. I wish I did it. I'm like, yeah, because if you're, remotely interested in not necessarily your physical fitness, just what's going on in your body. Mm-hmm. And if you're remotely interested in understanding your body to do whatever it is you want to do, maybe it's to age well, maybe it's to lose weight, like whatever it is, I think it's, I don't know. I know Tom and I are both biased towards this stuff because we value information. We've always looked at everything in our lives when we didn't understand something. The less information we had, the more weak we felt in that position. Yeah. So we always looked for information. And as soon as we were able to surround ourselves with more and better information, then we felt more confident in whatever it was we were doing. So that to us is just like the most valuable thing. And one of the things that like our parents both taught us, like your health, like if you can do anything to understand and focus on your health, like that's what you do, right?
Yeah. Because that allows you to do everything else.
Cool. Where do if people want to kind of check you guys out, what you're up to and stuff, is it social media? Is it the website? Where do they kind of?
Yeah, we have our website, ishplabs.com. We are on social on Instagram. Our handle is at ISHP Labs. We have our home-based lab in Toronto. We have another lab out in Collingwood. And we're going to be opening up a downtown location at Queen and Bathurst within the next couple weeks. But we also mobilize. So if there is anybody that is listening and they have, access to a place for us to go, we can easily, many of our technologies and our equipment can go with us and move with us.
That's pretty cool. I think what you guys are doing is awesome. I think I'm glad to see the whole space is growing. I think, I just think we need more of it, so I really kind of, especially I think the reason behind what you're doing is it's obvious. So it's really cool.
Yeah, no, thank you. No, it's always been about educating. I think like you were saying, you want to educate yourself and feel good about what you're learning. And I think health is sometimes those things, we've taken a back seat to our health. I know I have, Scott has. But it's just bringing that back to the forefront and giving people the tools necessary and the education around where they are and where they can get to if they so want to do it.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks for coming in, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.